Welcome to the tour de Coop. I'll take you along to see a Coop I put together. The instructions I found on a Home Depot blog site, and I copied it almost exactly except for the roofing material. Let's start at the front. So we've got this run board the chickens can run up into the coop. And it's just a 1x6 that I put little spacers on so the chickens can hop up. Now the door is just trim pieces cut with this angle for a little bit of flare, and I put some hinges on a piece of plywood, and on the other side reinforced it with some pieces of trim and then painted it. So I get this opposite diver down symbol, whatever that means. And then I've got a little latch here to keep the bad guys out at night. The siding is it's a plywood siding. You find at Home Depot. It's kind of expensive, but I think it's worth it. It gives a nice, looks like paneling kind of look to it. Along the side, I've got this flip-out door. I've got these barn latches on it, one on each side. You just pop them off. And this whole door folds out. You see, I've got this hinge, this long hinge here. It's one of the more expensive pieces of this whole thing. It was like $15, $20 for that hinge. And then on the inside, this drop-down door makes it easy to clean out. And on the inside, there's this long 2x4 here that runs across. And then up on this upper area, there's a couple more 2x4s where the chickens can hang out and perch. The ground, it's these panels, these flooring panels. Underneath is the plywood, just regular plywood.
The linoleum is hopefully to make it easier to clean, right?
Yeah, I put polyurethane on top of it. I know you're not supposed to, but I did it anyway, just to seal it up a little bit, and we'll see how it works.
And this,
The trusses?
yeah, the truss and how you secured them.
Oh yeah, I use these brackets, these fence post brackets, to secure the 2x4s that run along the framing area, the framing of the coop, and then just went straight up with the trusses. I don't think I used any framing, any of those brackets for the trusses. Just went straight up. Most of the straight cuts, just a few angled cuts for the roof pieces, 30-degree angles. All right, let's close it up and look at the back. All right. And then the back box here is for the eggs. It lifts open, and I've got this. It's a 2x2, or maybe it's a 1x1. I cut it a 20-degree angle up top.
Looks like a 2x2.
Okay. And then I screwed it in almost all the way on this side, so it can flex up and down, and you can support the roof. This is where we're going to gather the eggs. On the roof here, so you can see I did the whole thing with cedar shingles, but the directions didn't really cover how to handle where the roof meets the coop for this breeder box. So I was kind of going along, and then had this maybe 2-inch gap between the roofing material and the coop, because there needed to be a bit of leeway just to open this thing, so I had to cut it a little short. So what I did is I found this piece of shower liner that I nailed to both the door and the coop, and then put the silicone caulking all around it, and then roof caulking all along here to keep the water out of touching the wood. Hopefully it'll just run off. And it's flexible, so it's nice that you can open and close it, and it's still watertight.
Mm-hmm. What are the dimensions of the box?
Of this box?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about 3 feet. I don't remember offhand.
And the whole coop was what it was?
96 by 48, roughly. And then the roofing, I mentioned I did the cedar shingles. So I've got a piece of plywood under here, and then I used this vinyl flashing. I taped down vinyl flashing all the way across, it ended up being about the same cost as using the roof felt. So I went with this instead. It was easier in smaller pieces. This white vinyl stuff. I wish I could. I can't really see it. I guess you can kind of see it if you look here. There's some. See some of the vinyl here. And then I did 1x2s all the way across, and then nailed the shingles into those so that there's a space between the plywood and the shingles so they can dry out when it rains. As far as the other ventilation goes, between the coop and the roof, there's about a 2-inch gap on both the upper part and the lower part to allow for air to come in and out of the coop, let it breathe a little bit. The fence posts here, okay, yeah, I'll cover this first. The roofing material, I used a cedar board and I cut it into about 8 pieces and then nailed those pieces together. Cut these at a 30-degree angle here so they'd come together, and nailed them together and then set them on the roof, nailed them in. So, you know, hopefully that holds. So the bottom here, I forgot to mention that these support posts are 4x4 treated timber like you'd use for a deck. And so those are the only treated pieces I'm using. As those pieces are touching the ground. One mistake I made along the way is I used these brackets to hold the whole thing together, and I used a sheet metal screw to keep them together, and they weren't. Still a little bit of play in those brackets, so I ended up putting some cross supports on all the main structural pieces. I have a small piece here that I'm using as a cross support.
Mm-hmm. Because it was a little wiggly at first.
It's a little wiggly.
Yeah.
I put those in, it seemed to help.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's it.
Yeah. Hopefully the chickens will like it.